Everyone, this is Nitha Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1053. We are live on all podcast platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and fans. Please tune in. Everybody knows about our Spreaker app. You can tune in there, ask questions to today's guests, and today we have a really special guest. Her name is Nicolette Rojo. She's a talented, inspiring sports host, sports reporter out of California. She works for the 33rd team. Go follow that page. She does a great job at that. Also, she works for Fox Sports as a digital media person. So she does great stuff there, and she's versatile in the sports industry. I love what she does, and she has an amazing resume. And also not only she's a sports journalist now, but back in the day, when she was younger, you played basketball too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, correct. Up until college.
Yeah, so we'll get into all of that, and obviously what she does now in the sports industry, women in sports, obviously. And thank Nicolette, thank you for joining us today on the show. And like I said, fans, you can ask questions on the Spreaker app to her. So first of all, how are you and your family doing today? Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me on the show, Nathan. We're all good here, safe here. We're safe, trying to stay a little warm. I'm in LA and it's raining, which is kind of rare to be. But how are you and your family doing?
Good, good. We're here in Jersey. We've been getting 80-degree weather. It's weird. It's actually we're getting the California weather here in Jersey in November, which is crazy. And everywhere is crazy right now with the weather. But just staying busy. Obviously, busy covering games also, and with the show going on. And but before we get to your what you're doing now in your career, obviously you cover a lot of football too, and I don't know if you heard the news with the Colts. A lot of Colts news today with the firing of Frank Wright, and then the surprising move was Jeff Saturday as an interim head coach, and everybody was shocked about that. I just want to get your quick thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on that, and how surprised were you they went in a different direction with no coaching experience?
Yeah, so the Frank Wright hiring, to address that real quick, was not a shocker at all, to be honest. I didn't hate him too much. I thought he was good, but this year's season, I'm not a Colts fan, by the way, but this season has just been very lackluster and it's very much overdue. I had a feeling when Ursay fired their OC and a couple of other staff members, I knew that, okay, Reich's got to be next. Now, as far as hiring Jeff Saturday, I am a huge football fan. It's my second favorite sport behind basketball, as
Mm.
always, but I grew up watching a lot of football, specifically the Colts with Peyton Manning, Dallas Clark, Edgar and James, and then Jeff Saturday at center.
Yeah.
So as a player and as an ESPN analyst, he's fantastic. I will say it is a little interesting that they did hire someone, as you did mention, with no coaching experience above high school, which that's not a knock on him. The playing experience is always fantastic.
Mhm.
But sometimes players don't always make the best coaches and vice versa. Same with front office men, general managers, etc. It's very interesting, I will say, that um, him, how there's a lot of other coaches that do have the experience and multiple races and just everything all else, just experience wise, they get passed over regardless. And then Jeff Saturday just kind of is handed it to him. However, he does have I do see like that energizing, like the Energizer Bunny. He gives me like Energizer Bunny vibes, which is good. And sometimes you need a little change in that. That's what happened with my Raiders
Yeah.
last season. They fired Gruden and they went to Bisaccia, and it was just ongoing. I'm not saying the Colts are going to repeat that, but I do think it was something. And I don't know if he's going to be there long term. I know he was like a consultant with him, but I mean, who else are you going to get at the end of at this rate, especially if you're because hiring takes a process,
Yeah.
even if they had a hire like that. So I get what they did. It was just very interesting and kind of shocking.
Yeah, and I think they should have just maybe promoted assistant coach or something to head
Yeah.
coach. But I think they in their opinion they feel like him being a former player there, maybe the fans will gravitate towards that, and I think that's
Hmm.
why they hired him. But it's be interesting to see for. Uh, I mean, he's a great person at ESPN, obviously, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does as a coach. But I just want to get that out of the way because so people, our fans, don't get confused what went on today with the Colts. But now getting onto your career, let our fans know when did you get interested in sports? Obviously, playing sports, you play basketball, and obviously covering sports now. But when did you start getting into sports, and who would you say your biggest role model was in that?
Yeah, so I really started getting into sports when I was a young child. I started playing the sport of basketball when I was 8 years old, just because I thought, okay, let me kind of try it. I actually started out playing flag football,
Mm.
and
Oh.
I wanted to get into tackle, but my mom was not the biggest fan of it, so that was kind of vetoed. And my dad pulled up basketball. They didn't nothing was forced on or anything. He just asked if it looked interesting. I said, "Yeah, let me give it a shot." And well, the rest is history. I grew up loving it. I played throughout high school. I played a little bit in college until I got injured due to a car accident.
Oh wow.
But what I really liked was obviously just as an athlete, I wondered, okay, I already knew I'm not going pro. I'm 5'6.5", which is not the tallest for basketball, but so I knew I wasn't going to go pro, at least player wise. But I wanted to figure out, okay, how do I get to do sports as a career? And at first, I wanted to be a sports journalist because growing up, I was a big Sports Center fan. I watched Sports Center highlights. I was a big, and I still am, but outside of Fox, I'm still a big around the horn person. I loved all those shows growing up because FS1's a little more newer. And I thought, okay, let me see what I can do. So I started in high school as a sports editor. Eventually, it was my sophomore year of high school for
Mm.
the front page, sometimes a little bit on the back for sports because our sports section was on the back side. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. So 20, so May of 2016, after I finished high school, got recruited to the University of Laverne, which is just out about 40-ish miles from LA in the Inland Empire. So if anyone out in SoCal or is aware, that's where it's at. And small Division 3 school, and that I got there to play. I was there to play. No athletic scholarship because it's a D3 school,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed it. I enrolled as a communications major with an emphasis in broadcast journalism. That's what I ended up graduating with. I
Mm.
later added a business admin minor that spring of my freshman year. Then I got into the car accident that same year.
Oh
So
wow.
I did the old what every other retired washed up athlete like myself does and go to the broadcast booth.
Mm.
So I asked the athletics department, I asked even a colleague of mine who I'm still very close with today, because I saw he was calling games of play by play in
Mm.
color commentary. So I asked, okay, how do I get involved? He said, talk to the SID. So I did. And he's one of my mentors to this day because he was really what got me into sports. I really love being play by play for basketball, obviously basketball, football, did our radio programs, did TV for Laverne's television programs. I did news as well. I as much as I enjoy news and have nothing but respect for news and politics, I just said sports is my thing.
Yeah.
So I continued, and on the side I was learning the the basic business administration and then upper division classes, and that's where I struggled what I really wanted to do afterwards. So then flash forward to May of 2020, right before May 2020, that's when quarantine hit. And I graduated then with my senior project, but I knew I was going to get into I was going to go to grad school. It was just a matter of which program I wanted to go into. I got into USC Annenberg's journalism program, which is one of the top schools in really the world. And I also got a University of San Francisco sport management
Wow.
program, which is also one of the top schools in the world, just completely different programs. Then I realized I really like the business side, so I still love what I do, and which I still do today. But I really like the analytics and business side, just something that people don't necessarily see like right in front of them. I really like that analysis and business transactions part. So I pursued that. I enrolled in July of 2020, right, literally 2 months after I graduated, and I worked through the program. And I internships were pretty much hard to get in the beginning because California was pretty much shut down until really spring of 2021 was when things really opened up. So half my program was, majority of it was online. And while I was online, I was learning. My first real internship with sports was the Bob Feller Active Valor Award Foundation, which I still actually am a co-host of their American Valor podcast, and kind of mentor their current interns there. It's named after Bob Feller, the now Cleveland Guardians pitcher who served in World War II. Wow. And I just love, because I like baseball as well, which, speaking of, prior to COVID, that I actually interned with the Arroyo Seco Saints, which is a California Collegiate League based summer league baseball, similar to the Cape Cod League down south, Savannah Bananas League, similar concept. And I really enjoyed it. I did broadcasting and I did social. And I love traveling with the team. This is when I decided I'm going to go into sports because I just love doing that. I love the concept. I love digital media. And then once halfway done, I said, okay, let me try Fox Sports, because I almost landed a Fox Sports internship in May of 2020, but in spring of 2020, but because of COVID, everything kind of shut down. So I said, let me try again. I started as an intern spring of 2021, and one of our members in the same department left in May of 2021. That was when the program ends, because Fox's programs are 10 weeks. So I interviewed for her role, and I was essentially promoted. And my role has changed since then as a digital content specialist. Yeah. And really one of the people I really look up to in sports is, quite frankly, is Joy Taylor. I mean, I've loved Joyce for a long time, even before, back when I was in high school when she first joined Fox. And now I work closely with her. I get to call her as really someone I look up to, and we literally like message almost every day about even just some funny random stuff. That's not random stuff. We both have similar passions. We love sports, we love social justice, and we just love to be funny.
Yeah, your story is already inspiring and amazing, and obviously transitioning from an athlete to a broadcaster now is truly amazing. And speaking of Joy Taylor and the other people you look up to, like, it's really important to have mentors in this business. I have three mentors myself as a sports journalist. I have Amy Trask is one of my mentors, if you know her. Ryan Field is my other mentor, and then Tina Savassi is my third mentor. So it's like really important to have mentors. So for you, obviously being in the Fox Sports business, and the 33rd team has really great people like Mike Tannenbaum and Jay McCarthy. So what's it like for you to be able to transition from an athlete to broadcaster, and having like Joy Taylor by your side, and having Jay McCarthy and Mike Tannenbaum by your side too?
I think really just learning from folks like that just helps for a lot of things. And even besides the broadcasting side, because besides that, just learning, because they've all adapted to when they first started in the industry, and just learning about the digital side, which has evolved a lot since when they've started. Learning about the more of the businessy side, for lack of better wording, for a 33rd team, and that was the purpose of why it was started, was because there was it's a unique general manager, since Tannenbaum used to be an executive, and there was just something that sometimes people don't really necessarily see, or it's an area that it's a different point of view that people don't necessarily cover, because it's tougher unless you know somebody or you yourself have been in that role. And as somebody who wants to get into a more executive role in digital media, or even on the partnership side, because of the business, because I like digital and I like business, I think just seeing all that combined, it just fits, whether want to be in front of the camera or you want to be behind the camera, or everything has its purpose, and it just kind of fits into one thing. And I think the coolest thing is once you start doing it, and the more you do it, you see, oh, this is how it fits. This is how this partnerships team gets content sells content to partners to make sure we get that money to perform even more content. This is how broadcast connects to, whether it's through Zoom like this or to to trailers. We still do have trailers, just a lot more advanced.
Mhm.
How does this X, Y, and X, Y, and Z? So I think just having those really how they've been from day one in their careers, how it's changed even just for the last decade. And really, and I think what sticks out with them, despite them being a little older than me, is they still they don't have to be as trendy. I'm not saying as someone my age, but they're keeping up with things. They don't have to be an Addison Ray on TikTok, but you're still keeping up with the technology. You're still keeping up with the trends, and they've all taught me, and including my professors at USF, just stick with everything. Like just learn and as much as you can. You really don't. And John Wooden, I've never met him, but John Wood, I'm a big UCLA fan, and John Wooden is one of my favorite basketball coaches of all time. He used to say that the day you stop learning is the day you die.
Mm.
And that's why I firmly believe that just learning about the things, you don't have to be an expert, but just learning even those little niche points of that's why they've told me that's what makes you stand out. And I'm definitely trying to do that every day.
Well, college basketball is back today, so we're excited
Yes.
about that. Let's go. But yeah, so we are live with talented, inspiring sports host reporter Nicolette Rojo from 33rd Team and Fox Sports. We have a fan question for you in our app. One of our fans wants to know what, what would you say your most memorable interview so far you've done in your career? They want to know.
I think the most, ooh, that's a tough one. I would say I think the most memorable one is it's a very simple one, but it's nothing super extravagant. Not yet, but I've interviewed a couple bigger stars, but I think the one that really stands out to me the most was little 14-year-old me just interviewing our high school coach who was very talented. I mean, he still is, but there's a few professional athletes that came out of my high school and over at West Covina, which is not far where I'm from, and which is where I'm from, and just that kind of like quiet person just confidently talking to a very acclaimed coach, and he was super friendly, and it also made me realize even at a young age of how the importance of relationship building is, and the better relationships you have, the easier it is to one, it's not even just jobs, but it's being just being cool with people. And I think that will stand out to me forever because I realizes that I did that 14-year-old kid who doesn't know really what they're doing or doesn't really know they want to be like somebody, but it just inspires. He is in the Hall of Fame, or he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So at least it's not just somebody random, but I think it's just a big reminder of me that everyone's just human, and it's everyone's human, and that's something that we could all like relate to.
Mhm. Yeah, so tell our fans what's it like working with Fox Sports and making content for them as a digital media specialist, and what's that been like for you just to get that experience with Fox Sports?
I would say since I started in last spring, it's changed a lot in a good way. In a good way. It's changed a lot in a good way. So when I first started out in spring of 2021, we were barely really we relaunched our new Fox Sports app, which downloaded by the way, if you guys have not, there's a lot of cool stuff happening there. And we got a lot of cool and it was really a relaunch of the app because we've had our digital app prior then, but we want to more focus on being mobile friendly and more fan engagement, which those are two key components in the sports industry. And regardless of what you do, if you could engage with fans and make it mobile friendly, you're in good shape. So when I started, then it was May. We actually got to do push notifications, and I got to write my first push notifications. So similar to the ESPN Woj bombs that you get
Mm.
or the
Yeah.
athletic ones. we have our own too. We have our own too. It's just under Fox.
Hmm.
And it was really fun to see. So, excuse me. So then time goes by, people leave for other opportunities, etc. Then then once people started leaving and the teams kind of shrunk just a little more, we got more responsibilities. In a way, for me, it benefited me because I get to do more social media on top of what I already do creating our YouTube content. And that helped me understand the analytics side of YouTube, creating shorts and Instagram reels, which I already kind of do on my own, but it gives me even more brainstorming on how I can do it for my own personal content. And just doing that, creating TikToks, going to even just as simple as going to the control rooms, seeing
Yeah.
the talent. Those are like the coolest parts, or even hanging out with some of the talent outside of work. That's part I think is the really coolest part. And just seeing behind the scenes what the folks in front don't necessarily see. Getting to be in the digital control room, which I do every Wednesdays for the Skip Bayless Show podcast,
Hmm.
being point for that. That's something that was a big responsibility because it's Skip Bayless. And just talking, getting to chat him with him, and he's a really nice man. But contrary to what people think they see on
Yeah.
TV, he's very, very nice. And just learning with them or hearing about Colin's takes about Aaron Rodgers off camera, which I won't say some of it, but they're all really helpful. And of course, just learning and networking even with women outside of the digital team. Since Fox puts a lot of professional development, they started a new series with places opening back up this year called the Stadium Series, which is essentially just first come first serve, but you essentially go to a game with a bunch of women because women of Fox Sports, and I did that recently with the Andy Ruiz Ortiz fight on Labor Day weekend. And what the benefit of being in LA is there's a million things to do.
Yep.
It's a curse because traffic's horrible, but there's a million things to do. And I think just seeing the behind the scenes of what your coworkers do. Good example is I'm learning, if anyone knows that they're awesome, Tagboard, which is the pretty much industry leader of managing graphics. So putting a graphic up, putting tweets, fan reaction tweets, or footage of, for example, the recent the World Series we just had. Digitally, I know we're going to do fantastic because what that team has done, putting highlights behind for the Phillies, what the Phillies done in their run on the National League side, and especially at the World Series, you have highlights from both teams, but especially obviously the Astros. The great catch, the amazing center field catch you saw to save the series, that really sealed the deal. Obviously, it helps when Justin Verlander's brother, who's a great guy by the way, an awesome guy,
Yeah.
is on your staff. But just seeing that wholesome content and then you have Kate Upton kind of interrupting in a fun way. But everything that stuff like that is what I like to see the behind the scenes, even if I'm not in H-Town or Philly. So just kind of learning those little things that helps you stand out in other areas, and just having access to those little shoots that some productions and other companies may not necessarily let you in unless you're involved directly tied with them.
Yeah, we actually had Ben on our show too. We got to talk to him. He's awesome, and obviously he does great stuff with you guys, and obviously supports his brother. And man, he posts a lot. He gives us updates every second with his brother, and he does a great job with that too. And and it was an honor talking to him. But we have another fan question for you. They want to know, how do you balance your schedule out with the work, and obviously and they want to know, when do you have free time?
So free time definitely evenings up until maybe within the next couple of weeks with World Cup.
Yeah.
Probably not as much, but definitely evenings are pretty free. Now, in terms of how I balance things, calendars, I have you can't see it obviously, but a whiteboard that's in front of my home desk where I physically just write it out old school. And I color code. I only have three color coding colors just because I'm personally one of, I know color coding is very popular in ter for a lot of people. For some reason, I can't do many colors, so I can only do 1 to 3 colors at a time. Where, okay, this is what I have for Fox. This is what I have for 3013. This is what I have for appointments or Sporting Tribune or whoever. And I also have a, when I was in school, when I was also in grad school doing on top of everything, I really utilized my written calendar more. I got recently just got back to doing that. And it's really more because my calendar has a lot of inspirational, cute quotes that I just love reading. So that just kind of, they're cheesy, but they're cute and they're inspirational. And I also have my phone, obviously, for Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, and I have those colors as well because it's kind of visual. It's more visual on a screen. For paper wise, I can only do one color. My brain's weird like that, but that's really how I just honestly organize. And if I have a lot to do in one day, then I'm old school and I just put a post-it note
Hmm.
saying, "Hey, go do this short. Go talk to X, Y, and Z. Go interview this person, or just go have an informational interview with somebody or in the industry." That kind of stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, go speak of going back to Skip Bayless real quick. The one thing that me and him agree on that we're both Cowboy fans. So yeah, I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan like him, and obviously his other things takes can be interesting, but all in all, great person. Obviously, great show with Skip Shannon Sharp too. Um, but I wanted to tell our fans. I saw one of your posts. You were at the recent Super Bowl. What was that experience like with the Rams and the Bengals? And obviously, I'm sure you're a Rams fan, right? Or
So an interesting thing about this is that I'm actually a Raiders fan. However, I worked and still actually currently do on weekends. When weekends I do have free weekends, I actually work with them game day. I have a game day position with them that doesn't conflict with a lot of Fox duties because my Sundays are usually off.
Mhm.
And I did and still do 50-50 raffle tickets. So anyone who's not know, if they go to a baseball or any sporting event, you pay certain money for certain tickets or numbers. We do numbers, and there's a big drawing at the end. Half of it goes to their charity, the team's charity or partners charities, and then the other person claims the other half. And so I got that opportunity through them because they obviously it helps that even though it's an NFL event, it helps that they happened to host the Super Bowl and they were actually in it. And it was exciting. I went to the one in Tampa 2 years ago, and that was exciting to see the Tampa Bay Bucks, sorry, win with Tom Brady and just that atmosphere. I said, okay, that was amazing time. I went with a few of my grad school friends. I need to do this again in my hometown in LA. And I think it was the best. I could probably go to a million Super Bowls the rest of my life, at what even as an executive one day. But this past one will, unless the Raiders win in 2024, which good luck. That's another story. But this one, this year's will not be anything else. Just seeing the Rams win in my hometown of LA, born and raised. I know they're specifically in Inglewood, but it's still considered LA. It's LA culture, and seeing the halftime show was the most amazing. Was fantastic as well. Seeing Snoop Dogg, who I loved growing up as a kid, Dr. Dre, also as a kid, still a big Kendrick Lamar fan. I've loved them since Section Point 80 days. Mary J. Blige, even though he's not from LA, back east icon, and then Eminem, of course. And 50 Cent popped up for a little bit. And just seeing all those artists really come for a great day at a fantastic stadium. And of course, seeing a very good game, Aaron Donald just beating that bad Bengals O line and just getting Burrow at the last second, even though I do like Joe Burrow. It was just a fantastic experience, and that I will never forget that ever.
wow, that's yeah. I mean, That was amazing Super Bowl. Obviously, halftime, one of the best halftime shows in my opinion. A lot of surprises. Obviously, 50 Cent was a surprise, but yeah, for you. Speaking of surprises, we got. I don't know if you looked on your phone yet. On ESPN, they just posted Adam Schefter doing the Kirk Cousins. Remember when with no shirt, he had the bling on. Adam Schefter just did that on ESPN. They had him on ESPN.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I love Kirko Kirko chains and now Adam Shefty chains, I guess. I love that.
But for you, what's it like just to obviously you grew up in California, born and raised there. What's it like just to stay in your hometown, cover sports there? Obviously, it's a big market when it comes to sports.
Mhm.
So, what's that? What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me, honestly. I mean, I've said and I still mean this even to this day that if I'm going where God or whoever, like the universe like takes me, and very to say that I started right out of college and grad school, the second biggest market in the US is a blessing. It of course it helps that I'm from here, but there's many people that I know who had to leave. The good thing is they could always come back. That's the best part is you can come back. And and you got to do what you got to do. So, and I have nothing but respect. I would still do the same thing if another opportunity comes elsewhere. I would leave my city.
Hmm.
But just starting out here is just awesome. There's a lot of great sports cities
Yeah.
in the US and really in the world, but not just size, because obviously we have the second big, LA is the second most populated city, but we have a lot to offer. We're super diverse. We're still growing in a very unique way. I mean, we're still, I don't know, how do I word this? We're size wise, we're still growing. I mean, we're pretty much filled what we are. We are what we are,
Yeah.
but we're still kind of innovating in a way. I mean, we just opened up SoFi 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We got CONCACAF next summer. We got the Gold Cup next summer. We got WrestleMania, which I'm excited to go. I'm going to next April. We just had the Super Bowl. We're gonna have the World Cup. We're gonna have the Olympics and 2026 World Cup specifically. But I think just seeing that and going to games even at the Rose Bowl, going to the bank, which my LAFC just won MLS Cup.
Yeah.
Seeing just seeing a heart of the city being so active, which is very hard to do. And if anything, it's a good challenge, even if you're from here, because there's so many things to do in LA. How do you get fans' attentions? How do you keep them entertained? Yes, there's a Laker game, for example. There could be a Laker game. There was a Laker game yesterday,
Yeah.
but how do you how do you keep your brand or yourself or whatever your role is entertained when somebody can just go to a Laker game? They can go to an LAFC right after. They can go say screw all that, and if it was during the spring, they could go to Coachella, which is not far from LA. So I think that presents some challenges, but in a way, it's just good. And we got a lot of, like I said, we got a lot of diversity. So there's a lot of people in the Latino community, like myself. There's a lot of people in the Black community. There's a lot of South Asians, and we got a lot of Persians, Armenians, Middle Easterns. We just got everybody, and that's something that really just stands out to me. And of course, our music culture is kind of is fun too.
Yeah. Nipsey Hussle, R.I.P. That's one.
Yes, loved him, and was very sad when I found out he died.
Yeah. We have another fan questions for you. They want to know what's your nickname.
Oh, my nickname. So I have a couple. My family, the most basic one I have is Nikki, and that's from family and super, super close friends I've known for a long time. That's because it's basic. It's short for Nicolette. It's just basic. Another one I have, this is a more popular one, is so you see my name is spelled Nicolette,
Mhm.
but it started out from college. It's Nickel Lit, like let's get lit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a Nicolette is a very common one. That was originated because when I was during college, every communications major, unless you're a public relations major, you have to sign up for the radio. You have to take the radio class, which required going on air.
Hmm.
And you don't have to, you're not required to have a DJ name, but I figured let me try something. And this seemed kind of nerve wracking. It was nerve wracking, but it ended up being super fun. And I said, let me just put DJ Nicolette. It just had a really nice ring to it. And this was my sophomore year. And it kind of just stuck since. A third one I have, this is more fairly new, and it's actually it's not as common, is N, like my name, first initial N, and then Woj, like Adrian Wojnarowski. And the funny story of that is it was from one of my good grad school friends who kind of gave me that in our final semester of grad school because I would share I don't one I never got to beat Shams or Woj, but I'm convinced I've done it once because it was the Lakers and I'm not like 10 I'm 30 minutes from where they play. And because I would share news or I would get notifications, whether it's from Fox, ESPN, and everything, I would say, oh, by the way, AD is hurt for the millionth time, as always. Luca wants out. He doesn't, but or so and so, this player wants out. Lakers are trying to trade. We don't know if LeBron's going X, Y, and Z. Just stuff like that, just little updates like that. Kyrie is doing his thing and just stuff like that, just kind of sharing or slash breaking the news a little bit, and that kind of stick with a couple of them. And I also ended up using that nickname for my fantasy basketball squad, so those people kind of picked it up.
Wow. Yeah, speaking of the Lakers, obviously they're off to a rough start this year, but I see in the background you have an original Kobe Bryant jersey, number 8, and RIP to him. And I live by the Mamba mentality. Also, he was one of my favorite players growing up. I watched him all the time, and obviously I'm near Philly area, so he's from
Mm-hmm.
the Philly area, and that's how I started watching him from Philly. This going back and talk about your what I don't know if you saw Kobe in action and play. You saw him play in action before in person, but if you did, what do you say your best memory of him watching him?
I was grateful, and I've seen him twice.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it was not his final game against the Jazz when he pulled up for 60 points against the Jazz, but there was a couple. The main one, there's only 2 games, but the one that I really enjoyed, they played against the Sixers. This was not when AI was on the team. This was in the late right before when the Lakers were in the playoffs, but they were just kind of it was just Kobe.
Hmm.
So it was the mid 2000s. It was really Andre Iguodala's
Yeah.
prime. It was his last season, one of his last seasons before he left for Denver.
Yeah.
And I remember just watching Kobe. Kobe was barely he wore the 24, so he barely changed to 24. And I just saw how electric he was. He could have three. Sometimes I question even as a young kid, why are you shooting it with 4 people on you? But that was just him, and he was injured. He had a lot of messed up injuries, and he played through them, and it was so insane. And he's very, very electrifying. I've seen LeBron play, and I love how he plays, but just nothing, and it's nothing against LeBron because both of their games are different in a way. But something about Kobe just sparked it so much. Again, like what you said, that Mamba mentality. You either have that or you don't. And it's not a knock if you don't. It's just something that it's a rare breed. And that was something that I try to install in my life, that you push through the pain. I'm not saying go play with torn ACL, but just push through those tough times. And his career, and just even when I got a little older and see what he did off the court was just exciting. He was really all these athletes you see utilizing their voice off the court, off the field, out of their sport is such an amazing thing to see. But Kobe really started that. Was the one, in my opinion, who started that with his Oscar, with his little short form, Dear Basketball, his letter. He even inspired me to write a goodbye Dear Basketball letter. Well, when after I got hurt, and just seeing him was pretty much the best thing. And anyone who's seen him play in person, or those who haven't, it I don't want to say you missed out, but I would say absolutely, because he is just a player that is just amazing. And I've seen other great players, and I still see them. Not that today's players are fantastic, but you're never gonna find another Kobe again. But I will say you can see some of the things. I can see some in Jason Tatum a little bit. I'm not saying he's gonna be Kobe. He's never gonna be Kobe, but I can see a little bit of his game, his fadeaways. I could see that with Devin Booker, except I think Devin Booker kind of whines a little too much for me. But his shooting, his shooting form, that's all Kobe. I see that with in the women's game, Sabrina Ionescu. Ionescu's close to the Bryants.
Yep.
You can see that with her shooting. You could see with her follow through. You could see with her mentality. She just had several serious injuries, but she's back and she killed it with the Liberty. You can see that with other players as well. And it was real. So seeing him play in person was just amazing. But then seeing what he's done off the court, and even with the Maba Academy, which is a little bit further from me, but just fantastic, great man, and just love was devastated when him and Gigi and everyone on that crash passed.
Yeah, it's just devastating. And speaking of women in sports, obviously, tell our fans is really important. Women in sports is still growing, but we're heading into the right directions for you guys. And I have 12 people who helps me out with the show, and 5 of them are females. And talk about what advice would you give to young girls that are trying to get into the same industry as you?
It's very cheesy. I mean, we see Nike posted since Mr. Knight, since Mr. Phil Knight really established it, but literally just do it. Like, just go for it. There's a lot of, I'll be honest, there's going to be a lot of tough times being a woman, especially being a woman of color. I still experience this to this day. But a lot of women, there's a lot of great women mentors out there, and male allies, including yourself, like male allies who are there to really support you when times get tough, and who will be on your side even when things are peachy keen and fantastic. Really just find what you really like, whether that's reporting in front of the camera, satellite reporting, digital media like what I do, digital content, more behind the scenes. Or do you like, you want to be a GM? I mean, we have Kim and Aang. We have more women in there. Go for it. You can do anything that you put your mind into. If you can dream it, you can do it. That's the saying from Walt Disney, not myself. But and which I'm 20 miles from Disneyland, so it's fitting. But just really, just push for it. If you really want to do it, get ready to work, but also have fun. Make sure you're having fun. It's the most important thing. If you're not having fun, then you got to do something else. And it goes for anything. It's not even just sports. It's even anything. If you don't anything in your life, if you find that you're not having a lot of fun in it, there's other things that you can go definitely have fun. I mean, you can try to make it fun yourself, but if you've done everything you can and you just can't, then there's other ways to definitely find fun and find that fun elsewhere. And definitely a number one thing when you're pursuing it is it's a little hard to find at first, but turn to people in your corner, if even if it's just somebody, whether it's your family or your parents, if the family is not supportive at first. Thankfully, we live in a social media time where you can reach out to someone on LinkedIn or Twitter or even TikTok. That's how I met a lot of my OG peers. Shout out to the OGs. If you know, you know. If you know, you know from TikTok. And they've just been helpful. We're all the same age, and they've just been helpful in my life, literally from quarantine. Now that places are opening, now that actually we're pretty much transitioning out of this pandemic era, not quite done with it, but we're transitioning out of it. It's now you can just ping somebody, hey, I'm in this city for this date, or I'm from here. You want to meet up for 15 minutes, or even if it's just Zoom because of across the country or across the world. And the possibilities are endless. And if you can dream it, you can 100% do it. It's going to be tough because it is still a male dominated industry, but just being allies with other women in sports and even with male allies as well, that will definitely get you in.
Yep. So we'll take one more fan question. They want one of our fans wants to know how many bloopers you have.
Sorry, how many blue
Yeah, so they want to know
bloopers?
how many bloopers you have.
Oh, too many. Too many. I have a lot of takes, or I would try a lot of takes because I'm a perfectionist. Even if I think I nailed it from one, I would always find something wrong, even if there's no hiccups, no likes or ums or anything. I'm just a perfectionist, so I have a lot of funny bloopers.
Yeah, so before we get to the last two things, are you surprised the way the Raiders are playing this year? Obviously, your team is. I really thought they were gonna be good this year with Devontae Adams and obviously Derek Carr already playing together at Fresno State. But and I think you should have kept Rich Bisaccia as head coach instead of going to Josh McDaniels. But I think what are you surprised though the way they're playing?
Yes, 100%. I wasn't thinking, oh, they're gonna be 8-0 like the Eagles. To be fair, I didn't think they were gonna be 8-0, but I didn't expect them to be this horribly bad at 2-6. They were coming off a playoff year with the Gruden emails, Ruggs really messed up accident, and losing a bunch of players. And they still overcame that. And I agree with you, Ethan. Just I think keeping Bisaccia or at least go after somebody else. I was one of the few Raiders fans who actually was, at least in my area. I have no idea about Oakland or Vegas or anywhere else, at least in my area or my network, that of people who follow the Raiders, like them, hate them, which is like 80% of people I know. I said, okay, I despise the hire from day one. McDaniels did absolutely nothing in Denver. To be fair, yes, he had Tebow, but yes, he had Tebow, and yes, there were other things, but he had Hall of Fame players. He had or future Hall of Fame players. He had a hell of a defense. Denver's had a good defense as long as I can remember. A pretty good front office, and he still couldn't get the job done. And yes, he's been the Belichick coaching tree, but it's easy to do that in New England when you have the GOATs as your quarterback. And he did pretty well with Mac Jones his rookie season. So I try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I've also heard he's just not a locker room guy because some coaches can be very good assistant coaches, but never be a good head coach. It's one thing being, at least in football, an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, where you're just controlling really one side of the ball. When you're a head coach, you have to control the whole locker room.
Yeah.
And if you lose the locker room, that's it. I've never been to the Raiders locker room, but I can kind of see that. Am I going to blame it all on Josh McDaniels? No. There's a lot of things the Raiders do I've done wrong. Carr is not playing well. Again, he's playing very horribly, and a lot of it I can't blame on McDaniels. I can't blame Josh for missing throwing balls way over receivers' heads, for not being mobile out of the pocket. I'm not saying you have to be a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen. Carr is not a 6'6" or 6'5" guy. I don't want him to be a Josh Allen. But just being a little crafty, getting out, a little flexible, kind of like what Justin Herbert or even Burrow does. And obviously the front office not addressing the offensive line doesn't help. Not addressing, there's just a lot of things that similar to my Lakers, it just starts with really the whole organization. It's hard to blame just one person. I'm not going to blame all of it on Carr. I'm not going to blame all of it on the defense, all of it on Josh. It's really everybody's fault.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Obviously, a lot of surprises here in the NFL. with the Jets doing good, and
Hmm.
the Vikings are not getting talked about. They're 7-1, and
Hmm.
obviously the Eagles and the Cowboys, and a lot of surprise, a lot of great up and coming teams this year in the NFL showcasing their talent. You guys have a lot of talent too. Obviously, being in Vegas now, it's going to be a hit market. Um,
Hmm.
just they just have to show it on the field. I might have to convince Doug Gable to come out of retirement to come play with you guys.
Anybody would help at this point.
But no, but it's good. Yeah, I'm hoping you guys turn it around, and I don't think Josh McDaniels the right coach, and he's never been the right coach wherever he goes. He's a good assistant coach or offensive coordinator, but not a head
Hmm.
coach. And I think you guys made a mistake there, but it should be interesting to see what happens. But the last two things here before we let you go, our team is part of this foundation. It's the Hugh Jackson Foundation. Obviously, you know him. He's a former NFL coach. He's now coaching at Grambling State University, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe. And we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Absolutely. That's a super important cause, and I would love to help out in any way.
Thank you. Yeah. And the last thing here, what do you like to say? Anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the center workers right now?
Yeah, just thank you so much for really. I know you guys have heard that the phrase that you guys are all heroes, and I know you guys are extremely tired of it because of all the turmoil and all the stuff we've gone through the last almost 3 years now. But really, just hang in there and thank you so much for helping for all of your service during these really just all of eternity, but especially during these really tough tumultuous times less since 2020 and ongoing as servicemen, military. Thank you so much for your service as somebody whose father is an ex-Green Beret and whose grandpa is a sailor, ex-sailor, I should say. Definitely, and who has a lot of friends who are veterans or currently serving.
Oh,
Definitely thank you guys for your service and thank you to police as well. I know it's a tough job as I know being a policeman slash woman and law enforcement really is a tough, especially with all everything that's going on politically, but just thank you as well. And especially the firemen and our firefighters, I should say, men and women. It's very dangerous. Like every job's dangerous, but you guys are going through a pretty dangerous job nature wise. And as someone who lives in California, unfortunately, we don't got a fire season anymore. We
mm,
have a fires almost weekly because of climate change and just other reasons. And it's very devastating to see. So thank you for just really protecting not only our forests and all of our plants, but people's homes just people's lives. And I appreciate everyone who's trying to make not only our to really try to benefit our lives every day.
well, yeah, well said over there. And also we got Veterans Day coming up here pretty soon. So everybody please um please shout out all the veterans and make sure on that day you make a post or something on social media about them. And but there you have it. So Nicolette, tell our fans where they can follow you on social media.
Absolutely. So I am on pretty much all platforms and I'm on Twitter at nrojo5. Also my Instagram name. My TikTok is at DJ Nicolette, just like my old radio station college days name. And thinking what else? LinkedIn is just my name and Facebook is also just my name as well. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so and also what do you got coming up next year, and tell our fans, and what you guys coming up next? What do you guys have coming up next?
Well, we definitely got World Cup coming up, so we're gonna be tired. I'm not too sure if I'm personally gonna go to the Super Bowl, but either way, I'm still gonna be supporting that. And I got other plans to really help. I'll be continuing with the 3013 for fantasy and betting. So
Hmm.
also hit me up for any betting advice or fantasy advice and just take it from there. A couple trips planned for personally. I'll be visiting my family in the Bay Area. I'll be visiting a good friend again in Utah. Might try to go to Miami in January, and I may visit probably Houston next summer.
Yeah, I might hit you up for some fantasy advice because my two teams are struggling right now. So
Oh,
yeah, so I'm gonna hit you up with that eventually. But thank you again for joining the show. Everyone, please go follow Nicolette Rojo. She does an amazing job, inspiring story, and obviously a former athlete, now sports journalist, sports host. Go follow her, and like I said, thank you for joining. This was awesome. Learned a lot today, and keep up the great work.
thank you so much, and good luck to everyone on your team, and let me know how I can help, if anything.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, we would love to have you back at some point down the line so you can meet the full team. But
Well,
I know
yeah,
yeah, I know you're busy coming up, but we'll stay in touch. Obviously, stay connected, and we'll continue following your career.
absolutely. Thank you so much. I'd love to be back on, and I'll follow you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you. Anytime.